Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Morning Crow on this is August 3rd, 2015. We got a full room here, and today we're going to kick off starting talking about Social Security. And Tempest was just sharing with us how it works over there in Australia. And I wanted to now what was the name you called it over there again? What did you call it, Tempest?
So it's what we call superannuation, super guarantee.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, 9%. And you said that an employer has to add 9%. They pay an extra 9% on top of your pay into this fund, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Because here in the States, they take, I think it's 6.7% out of your pay. I mean, they're not adding on to anything. They're taking it out of your...
Employers have to match it.
Out of your pay? Oh, so you get your pay and then they take it out of the pay?
They do that, and the employer has to match.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same in Canada as well. There's they do that with your employment insurance as well. So if you get laid off, you've paid into the insurance program for that, as well as the people, as well as your employer.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I'm pulling up this article. It's from the National Review. It says, did you ever notice the asterisk on your Social Security statement? Of course, this applies to those in the U.S. Article says, while engaging in the mundane task of gathering financial statements for a secure retirement meeting with my husbands and my advisor, this is written by Myra Adams. This baby boomer stumbled upon documented proof that our nation does not have the guts to confront one of its most serious economic problems. The realization came when I pulled from my files a document statement initially titled Your Social Security Statement. I don't know, I think once a year, regularly they send me something. I'm sure you guys in the States, they send you something like, you know, what you're going to receive per month at the age of 62 or 65. Also, how much you'll receive if you go on disability. But anyway, the article goes on to say, at first glance, the statement did not appear menacing. I was told I could expect to receive a benefit about $21.36 a month upon reaching age 70. But immediately I thought of a parallel, President Obama's infamous Obamacare promise: if you like your Social Security, you can keep your Social Security. But apparently on the statement later on, here, after the asterisk, there's a statement that says the law governing benefit amounts may change because by 2033, the payroll taxes collected will be enough to pay only about 77% of scheduled benefits. So apparently, and if you see the page there, there's a little asterisk, and you get your benefit page, looks like that. That pretty much the government has the right here to only pay 77% of your benefits, because by 2033, there's not gonna. I'm surprised it's even gonna last that long, to tell you the truth. That by then there will be enough money in the Social Security fund. I put a link. You can read the rest of the article there.
Great article.
I will put that link in the event page if anybody else wants to read it. So, thoughts about the Social Security? I mean, you know,
scam.
Go ahead, William. We know you have a lot to say. You've been itching. Go ahead, bro.
Well, you look at my avatar. It says it all. It's a Ponzi scheme. I mean, they got us just as surely as the Nazis managed to tattoo all the Jews with an identification number. We got ours at birth too. Required not threat, but a bribe, really. We were bought and sold.
Now, which somebody refresh my memory. Which president was it that started Social Security?
FDR.
Under the guise of what?
Well, I mean, it was kind of like a retirement program. He bribed people, you know, you're gonna get this, and then you know your kids are gonna pay for you, and on and on. And people failed to see that as us enslaving our own children into debt, because at the time it seemed expedient to do so.
Well, this is interesting. It's going to be August 14th. It's going to be 80 years since they signed the Social Security Act. So, wow.
My grandfather, 45 years ago, I remember him saying, "Oh, Social Security is not going to be around. Not going to be around." He'd only been around for 40 years at that point.
I don't know. The article also goes into a couple interesting points, which is the biggest problem we have is the baby boomer generation, in that we blew up, but they didn't have a ton of kids. And so what we should do right now is be promoting immigration and getting people legal documentation so they can pay into Social Security. Because right now we have so much illegal immigration that isn't paying into Social Security that would actually help that fund grow.
But what about this? What about if all these years I've been working, that's 6+% that they've been taking out of my paycheck, they haven't been investing it. I don't know how much interest it's been gaining, if anything at all. What if I was able to keep that money and invest it myself?
Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what happened. There was a couple of people who did that. In the most recent crash, they lost at least half, and then they had to live off of a portion of it. So people I know, it's gone. And that's been the situation for a lot of people. They did invest a lot of their money into the stock market, but every time it crashes, you see what happens.
Did you say it was the immigrant population that was draining?
No, it's not the immigrant population. We actually need immigrants.
Oh, okay.
We need immigration to pay into Social Security.
Okay.
I think recently they just didn't they just give amnesty to a bunch of like a couple 100,000 immigrants?
Well, they didn't give amnesty, but they gave them a road to citizenship. So if you were brought here under the age of 18, and you get now a temporary, like it's some other type of green card for 5 years, and then after those 5 years, then you can get a permanent resident alien, and after those 5 years, you can become a citizen.
So could it be that this whole push to legalize the illegal immigrants that are here already is because of the lack in Social Security? Could that be part of the...
It would be really smart for us to not only help them out, but also their parents, because their parents are the ones making money, and we need them to actually pay into Social Security right now.
How about
And
we
right
need
now
the
it's a
government
lot
to
under the
appropriate
table.
how about the government needs to take care of the people that are already here with the government funds that they've sucked off of us for years? In 1987, I posted this earlier, all the governments of the world, their combined military assets, could have covered the UN's projects for over 300 years. Not that we're investing. It's not that we need immigrants. Not people that donate into a freaking lottery system called the government's income taxes and everything else. These people have stolen the money. They're not using it the way they need to. 70% goes to the Crown and the Vatican. Talking about a dream in Disney World. The reality of the situation is we're taxed out the wazoo. We're not taking care of the people we already have. Cannot be taking care of every country's problems. We've got problems of our own. And a government that has stolen every dime we've ever given so that society could flourish.
The whole point is we don't have a young enough workforce compared to our maturing one. We need more. We need people to. I don't care if we immigrate or people start having more babies. We need more people in the workforce. And then the other problem we have.
Where's the job?
Hold on a sec. The only problem we have is we actually need jobs.
I think Social Security is just a carrot on the stick to pacify the slaves. People think they're going to get something. They're going to work until they're 70 years old without questioning anything. They're just going to drudge through life and die, a year after retiring. Then the taxes on their inheritance or whatever on their children's inheritance will eat that money right back up. So they really lose
Yeah.
little and gain much.
Yeah, if you don't have a 401k or some kind of fund that you've been saving on your own, there's no way anybody's going to just live on Social Security unless you're going to live in a very poor neighborhood.
It's the reason why they call it a tax, not a benefit.
Mm.
I don't know.
So-
It's a very complex system and situation that we find ourselves in. I was hearing the other day that we had enough to fund Social Security for years until Papa Bush decided to pull Social Security dollars to fight the war in Afghanistan. Wait, which war was it? Hold on.
Yeah, what
Well,
did Rumsfeld do with
Iraq.
Iraq, yeah.
What did Rumsfeld do with his money?
What do you mean?
I know he announced that we lost like $23 trillion or something at one point right before 9/11.
It wasn't that high. I think it was $1 trillion. Even though
Well, I
$1
mean,
trillion is a lot of money, but
I could have said a bazillion, and it was still more. No matter what I'm saying, I can't picture it in my head.
I suspect
Yeah.
it's probably not that different than what's gone on here in Canada and in my province here in Nova Scotia. That typically what happens over time is that the various sources of government revenue, i.e. taxation or any kind of taxation like licensing fees and registration fees and stuff like that associated with government programs and bureaucracies, that they've all lumped everything into a general fund so that there is no accountability anymore for the direct dollars collected, say, for Social Security and the payouts that are supposed to be a part of the retirement program. That instead what happens is that that just gets the money that comes in on that just ends up in the general fund, and then the bills that come associated with pensions get paid out of the fund. And as a result, it often people think that there's going to be money there because everybody's still getting these pension checks, but right now it's underfunded in most countries that have retirement programs because it's being paid out by other taxes.
Yeah, they've been dipping into it in America. They've been dipping into it for everything that they want to purchase. Anything that they want to skip some money out of, it'll come out of Social Security or something like that. It's all just digits in the system. I mean, this is credit or debt, really, that we're talking about. I mean, there's nothing solid that it's based on anyway. So the whole thing is kind of a big scam. It's not about how much money is put in or anything like that. It's just keeping people busy and keeping them in the workforce, pacified, thinking they're going to get some special treatment. Most of them won't realize that.
Yeah, one of my Democrat friends down in the U.S. posted on Facebook the quotes from who? From Christie. Oh, from three of the Republican runners talking about raising the age of retirement, and was critical of that. And I'm thinking you're just living in unreality here. If you actually think in the next few years, whether you vote blue or red, the age of retirement is going to have to go up simply because people are living longer and the system is not designed to sustain an aging population. It's based on certain metrics in the beginning that are being outpaced by the health of the citizens.
Here's the challenge that I have with it. And we have what do they call the average age that somebody passes away? What is that called again?
I don't know what they call it, but I think
Life expectancy.
The
average life
expectancy is about
expectancy,
75, I think, right?
yeah, it's like for men it's like 75, for women it's like 78, right? The sad part is for African Americans it's like 67. So the reason I already balk at them raising the number is because I fit in that African American, and sadly enough, the stats show that because of how the numbers lay out, I won't ever get Social Security if you continue to raise the retirement age because of that. So in and of itself, it almost creates a de facto discrimination by raising it to a level. I don't care how you look at it. Like, I'm trying to finish my point.
No, I'm sorry. I'm agreeing with you. I'm amazed actually, because I never thought about that. Isn't that a tricky little way to create laws to cut people out?
Yeah, carry on, Michael Ann. You're agreeing with her. Don't let her interrupt you.
Well, someone agrees with me. I'm going to shut up. Sorry. I thought there was. I learned that in the atheist debates, right? You get agreement, shut up.
There is another factor, I think, that we view Social Security from our current perspective, but when it was started, I've heard this asserted, and it's factual, that in 1940 the average life expectancy of a male was 60.8 years and a female 65.2. Exactly. And arguably the reason that Social Security was set up was so that there wouldn't be the starving widow crisis that was sort of happening as a result of money drying up and people just dying in abject poverty. So the paradigm that we have today is completely different from what it started out as. That's my point.
But they've also increased the amount that we've had to pay to Social Security over the years because of that, right?
Well,
so it was a 3% tax at one point, and now it's gone up to almost 7%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just saying it was initially it was not intended to, and I heard this. I think the quote on West Wing was, "It wasn't intended to support 20 years worth of shuffleboard."
Can I ask a question? I want to ask something. Has anyone ever heard of us getting a loan from the Federal Reserve in order to deal with the Social Security deficits? I mean, problems
that's a bad idea.
Well, no, I think getting a loan from them at all is a bad idea, but we don't seem to think about that when we're trying to make war on somebody. I mean, we're borrowing trillions of dollars. Okay, I better be careful with that word, because we're borrowing a shit ton of money from the international banks, just like we did from China.
Yeah, shit ton is less offensive than trillions.
Were you offended by? Okay, a crap.
It's a joke. I'm sorry.
A crap load. Hey, that's compromise. So anyway, we're borrowing all this money, to kill everybody, but we won't heal anyone with it. We won't make people, well with it. That's not what we want to do. The government has complete control over this fantasy about money with us. We just fall for it because they give us sad sob stories from time to time where they don't have enough money. It's not even a matter of having enough money.
Don't they just create the money anyway?
Yeah, that's the whole point. It's fractional reserve banking. It's not an issue of. It's not like anyone goes in a vault and pulls gold out or cash out. It's digits in a system. For the most part.
Fractional lending, whatever they call it.
Fractional reserve.
Fractional reserve. For every dollar that a bank gets on deposits, they can lend out 9-10 times that.
It's the news that's currently around the American population.
Yep. And we argue about voting for this person or that person or this social program or this military action, but it's all bullshit because we have whatever money we need because it's all based on the credit of the United States person, the slave. And they're getting us right because we were talking about Social Security. They're getting us right off jump. They're putting a claim on us. They're signing us up for a contract that we're not even aware of, which can't be legally binding. But we don't know that, and we go through our lives like property. And we never question it because we're told every day that we're free. We salute a flag and talk about the land of the free, and we never question if that's talking about us.
TTP that's coming.
You?
The TTP, that trade agreement, Trans-Pacific, it's going to
Right.
kill us, and nobody wants to even read it.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I got real distracted by what Sugar put there in the side chat. I'm going to go address that.
Wow. Go ahead and just sell me out like that.
What's he put? Who's drying up?
No, come on now.
See, I didn't say it.
It's a menopause joke. It's just a menopause joke. I'm so sorry.
Oh! I thought you were talking about our financial system here, drying up here. Okay, all right.
I didn't think that she was talking about a financial system.
Have you guys heard of? I'm sure,
stereotype.
William and Mike Land, I'm sure you've heard about this this movement, the sovereign movement, right? And
Never
how they
heard
say that no, come on, the birth certificate. The birth certificate is a you're just like a piece of cargo in essence, you know.
Yeah, you
and
are.
Your birth certificate is just your stock.
It's your.
It's just stock.
That's right. That's absolutely right. You are property. You are chattel. You belong to the system. There's actually
some people claim that you can somehow access this account, which I have not seen it successfully done. I looked into a little bit of this. Yeah, this ain't. Yeah, no.
The only thing that you can do when it comes to
You've heard
taxes.
of it, though.
Yeah, the only thing that you can do is, as far as accepting something for value is when it comes to taxes, and that's because of House Joint Resolution 192 that was signed June 5th, 1933. And that's when they got rid of the gold standard. You can't pay debt. Because if the only thing that it says in the Constitution you can use to pay debt is gold and silver currency, and you don't have access to it because of this resolution, then how can you be expected to do anything but lay the debt off? You know? Which, well, what you actually do is you accept it for value. You're saying, all right, it's on my, well, you know what, I'm not going to get into that right now, but I get where you're coming from with that movement.
Yeah, I would love to talk to you further about that idea of accepted for value. Yeah.
People try to use it for a lot of stuff that you can't. They try to use it for medical bills. They try to use it for all kind of things. Their power bill. It's not for that. It's only when dealing with the government fiction, the state fiction, and it's for taxes.
Okay.
And court settlements too. Court settlements.
We definitely have to do a hangout about that.
I'll have to brush up a great deal.
Yeah. Okay. So keep Social Security, scrap it. What do you think? I already know that William and Michael say scrap it.
No, actually, I think it's good to keep the slave class in line. Honestly, I mean, if they're not going to wake up and they're going to be bound by this, it's good for them to have a distraction. You know, it maintains order. The older I get, and the more I look into it, the more I understand what was going on. I don't support what they're doing, but and as long as they understand that I'm exempt, because I know I see the scam, and they don't mess with me about it, I got no problems with them. If people want to do this and they want to have this weird statist religion, you know, go for it. Do whatever you want to do. Freedom of religion. Worship the state if you want to.
Or move to Australia. We've got plenty of room. A lot of desert.
You don't have guns, though, do you?
No, they have snakes.
Yeah, no, that's a weird combination.
We have a lot of the most deadliest creatures here in Australia.
No guns! But no guns! They're deadly, you're not. I couldn't do it, man. I'm not brave enough.
If you could shoot a snake or a spider, you'd be pretty lucky.
I can shoot a snake, I assure you. Spiders, I'm just going to swat them.
Unless they're the big old spiders they have there. There's no squat.
Well, then I'm hooking one to a plow. I'm going to hook one to a plow and make it work for me.
Our spiders are so big they have life bars.
Y'all got some dangerous critters. So anybody else want to sing the praises of the Social Security system? If Has anyone said
When I get
anything
my
positive?
when I get my first check, then I'll tell you all about it.
Yeah. You let me know how that goes, sweetheart.
Right? I'm not counting on it.
You're right. They'll
I'm
find
gonna,
reasons to put it off.
Oh, I know what I
Hold
want
on.
to know. Do I get my Social Security if I move to another country? Or do I forfeit that?
If you expatriate, then
Well, no, if I have
As
dual,
long as you pay your taxes.
if I have dual
Okay.
citizenship.
yeah. But like Ermine says, as long as you still allow them to take your money.
Yeah. You're
So
fine.
so the UK would take my money and the Americans would take my money.
Right. You would belong to both. You would be duly owned.
So I have to. Well,
You have two masters instead of one.
That's right.
Oh, one could only hope.
Oh my God! What?
See what I mean? You ask for it. Look, I'm just living the stereotype, people. I'm giving you what you want. So if I move to the UK, I'm kidding. If I move to the UK, I'll pay my taxes on my job there. And
You have to pay it to the UK and the US. Well, actually, the U.S. isn't as bad when you live abroad. You only have to pay taxes for anything over $150,000.
I'm getting echo. Sorry. Echo?
Yeah, where's that coming from? I have my headset on, and I can hear it like crazy.
It's William.
Oh.
Thank you, William.
It's gonna refresh.
Yeah. As you were saying.
It's not that bad. I think it's only you have to pay taxes as an expat for everything over $150,000 that you make.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you're not making that kind of money, you should be fine.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I'll be making that kind of money.
I wanted to ask, but before we go right on to our next story, I wanted to ask quickly, Nathan. Do they have anything similar to Social Security in Israel?
Yeah, it's fully socialized, just like in France and in the UK.
Hey, Brojo.
Yes.
I posted something in the side chat. I want you to read. It's a quote, and it explains this entire Social Security system. And if there's anybody here that hasn't heard this quote, they really need to hear it. And you've got such a beautiful voice. If you would just read that, seductive and amazing.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, but in a real sexy voice. Okay, and slow.
Maybe I think you'd probably rather have Sugar do that.
All right, go for it, Sugar. Give us the words.
Are you up to it, Sugar?
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, let me see where I'm at here.
In the side chat there.
La 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 la.
I think what they're saying is you could make 150,000 or more if you just, use 1-900 numbers.
Right, exactly. And you'd be my biggest client there, Nathan. So we're talking about the fun. No, that's Joe's fun fact. I guess I better get it together. Starting with.
Where it says Edward Mandel House.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is a good article. Oh, you mean read it out loud? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, in a seductive voice.
Sorry.
He wants it done in a seductive voice.
I want you to purr that to us. Just purr it.
So Edward Mandel House had this to say in a private meeting with President Woodrow Wilson. Very soon, every American will be required to register their biological property in a national system designed to keep track of the people and that will operate under the ancient system of pledging. By such methodology, we can compel people to submit to our agenda. Wait a minute, I don't like this. Submit to my agenda.
Keep reading.
I just lost it. Submit to our agenda, which will affect our security as a chargeback. My screen's jumping around. Because
you want me to take over?
Yeah, my screen's jumping around because it's warm. I'm so sorry.
Here I'll go. Okay. By such methodology, we can compel people to submit to our agenda, which will affect our security as a chargeback for our fiat paper currency. Every American will be forced to register or suffer being living. I'm sorry, being unable to work and earn a living. They will be our chattel. We will hold the security interest over them forever. by operation of the law merchant under the scheme of secured transactions. Americans, by unknowingly or unwittingly delivering the bills of lading to us,
Yeah, your
will be
birth
rendered
certificate.
will be rendered bankrupt and insolvent, forever to remain economic slaves through taxation, secured by their pledges. They will be stripped of their rights and given a commercial value designed to make us a profit, and they will be none the wiser, for not one man in a million could ever figure our plans, and if by accident one or two should figure it out, we have in our arsenal plausible deniability. After all, this is the only logical way to fund government, by floating liens and debt to the registrants in the form of benefits and privileges. This will inevitably reap to us huge profits beyond our wildest expectations and leave every American a contributor to this fraud which we call social insurance. Without realizing it, every American will insure us for any loss we may incur, and in this manner, every American will unknowingly be our servant, however begrudgingly. The people will become helpless and without any hope for their redemption, and we will employ the high office of the president of our dummy corporation to foment this plot against America. And again, who said this? Edward Mandell House.
He was
said
Woodrow
this,
Wilson's. He was Woodrow Wilson's right-hand man.
I can tell you what the problem is right off the bat.
Didn't Woodrow? He terribly regretted signing the Federal Reserve Act, didn't he? Afterwards,
yes, he did. He said that he had betrayed his country in a way. He had.
You know what the bigger problem is, though?
What is it?
It's really, really clear, because they're using fiat to make their money, and fiat makes a crappy car. So of course it's going to be. Yeah. Right. Okay. Wow.
And now we just lost our one and only viewer. We just lost.
Yeah, I tried.
No, it was probably the quote I put up there. No, see, John did it too sexily, and they had to excuse themselves for a few minutes. They'll be back.
Anyway, I'm going to move on here.
You didn't want to comment on that at all before you move on?
Well, I mean, I think it's I don't know. What am I going to say? It's what happened, right?
Is that not describing our Social Security system?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, ultimately, you can only, experience life by sticking a sandwich in your face now and again, some water and bond. So that's the reality of the situation. Some people are rubbing their hands together behind their scenes, feeling like they have power, and that doesn't mean that they have authority over the way one tracks, arcs through this thing we call life. And I'm not discounting that stuff isn't real.
Right.
I'm just saying if you focus on that stuff all the time, I think you're sacrificing now for the sake of baying at the moon.
No, you're right. You're right, because we should be focusing, instead of worried about what we're the dependency there. We need to be focusing on our independence individually by being more self-sufficient. That way, we can't be enslaved. We can't be purchased, bought, and sold. We don't need them. They need us.
Well, that may be true, but I don't think we can have a world of 7 billion plus independent people. We need interdependence in some way, shape, or form. And
voluntary.
Yes, voluntary.
Yes. Well, that's all my concern
rather than compliant. I would agree with you there that we need to commit to the fact that if I can make fish hooks and you can make line and we share with each other, we can both go fishing where we couldn't. In the past. So, we have to voluntarily cooperate with each other. There's some epiphenomenal, extra value that comes out of that sharing.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
It's got to be voluntary. As long as it's voluntary and consensual, I think it's great. If it's in any way forced or made mandatory, then somebody has just usurped my authority.
I think I've been right. Sorry.
I was going to go to I totally agree, Joe, and this is related to another story, which I'm going to skip to instead of going to the one I was originally going to.
I actually don't completely agree. I just wanted to say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't agree with him going to a different story, or what we were just talking about?
No, what you were just saying, actually. I don't completely agree. And
Okay.
the reason why I don't completely agree is because we live in a society in America or many other Western democracies where you don't necessarily like certain things that the government is spending money on,
That's right.
but you still have to pay your taxes.
No, I
And
don't.
if people, well, you do by law. You can take whatever moral stand you want, but by law you have to pay your taxes, because if you don't, then there's no way a country can run with millions of people
A citizen
without.
has to pay taxes, my friend. I am not a citizen.
Well, were you born in the United States?
I was born in South Carolina.
So you were born in the United States.
I was born in South Carolina. That's
By
you're adding
law,
a plural.
you're a U.S. citizen. If you're living
By
in the
whose law?
U.S., by the law of the land.
I know John knows where I'm going to go with this, so I'm going to sit back.
Yeah, but it doesn't make a difference. You have no power to change this except by leaving. You're free to leave. I mean, name me a country.
But I want you to finish your
case.
thought, Nathan. I want you to finish your thought, though. I know, because it's going to go on. It's going to go on a tangent. Finish your thought about how, in your disagreement.
Well, look, I don't agree with certain things that the United States spends money on, and yet I still pay my taxes, because I realize if everybody just doesn't pay their taxes, because you'll find everybody will disagree with something that the government does. It doesn't matter what it is. So nobody has to pay their taxes. You have no government, and you can't run a country that way. It's just a territory, a free-for-all. It's anarchy. It doesn't work.
Well, for me, I wouldn't say no taxes at all, but I would say taxes spent more wisely.
Well, give me a tax. Well, give me a tax that you think that every single person in the United States will agree to pay.
I'm for getting rid of an income tax and have a flat sales tax, and that tax money is I'm for a minimal government where government just is there to protect the people. So your police, your military, and your courts.
Right, but again, they're spending your money, and you may not agree with the way they spend it.
Yeah, like I could do away with the police right about now. No, just kidding.
I hear that.
I want to live to tomorrow.
They scared the shit out of me.
I see where you guys are coming from, but you're not gonna. I mean, there's no country in the entire world that runs this way.
What if your police chief, just like your sheriffs in your counties here, are voted in?
Wait.
Then
Well, it depends on where you live, because there's some of the most racist places in the world where, in whatever, and you just keep getting the same racist cops and what have you in, and it's a train wreck.
You believe in a democracy, right? You believe in a democracy, right? Well, if everybody...
I believe in a representational democracy.
Okay, all right. You believe that the people's will should be represented, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, if these programs are truly doing what the people want done with them, then you won't have any complaints.
That's not true. Again, there's something in the government that you will find somebody objecting to.
Then you make it voluntary and let people who want to pay for certain things that think it's important, let them pay for that.
Again, and there's no country that runs this way.
Well, that's not really. I mean,
that's not really a good defense that there's no country that runs
it is, because you'd think that if it would work, somebody would try it.
Oh, no.
No, because it may not be in the best interest of the power mongers.
Thank you. Oh,
so every single person at the top is corrupt. Is that what you're saying?
That's also a fallacious argument.
I'm not saying that every single person at the... I didn't say that. No.
So what is there not a single person that would suggest this at the top if they thought that this was a good idea?
If I believe that it took a single person at the top to make a decision, then
No,
I
just
could
to
agree with
suggest
you.
it.
But
Just,
it's not.
just to suggest it, but I
But
don't
it
see
doesn't.
anybody suggesting it.
Suggesting is one thing. Implementing it is something totally different. With all due respect, Nate.
Well, I agree. I agree. So let's start at the very, very bottom. Let's start with a suggestion. Has anybody at the top ever suggested such a plan?
Why would they? Just like
Why
what she
would
said a
they?
while ago.
It works better.
Takes
Why
power
wouldn't
out of
they?
there. It takes power to control the majority of the money and to use it how they want to, and it puts it into the people's hands, which is truly what they say they're about. But in action, that is not what they demonstrate.
So again, you believe that they're all corrupt.
Why would they all have to be corrupt?
Because if there was a single person who is not corrupt, and they would think that this is a good idea, they would suggest it. What's preventing them from?
All right, well, let me ask you a question, and I'm not arguing.
We just have recently had a candidate who was like that, Ron Paul. And you know what? And they did everything, including the media, to prevent him from even getting the exposure that he deserved or getting word in edgewise. They even went so far as to change some of the rules at the caucus.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. They went out of their way and demonstrated exactly what he would accuse them of doing right off the bat. I mean, just like from the first little, what do they call it, debate or whatever. I mean, they were just shutting him down.
I don't see it that way at all.
Well, I mean, that's fine. You don't need to see it that way. But when we talk about the corruption in the people, whenever you start trying to seek power over someone else, you're becoming corrupt. Okay, and I know that you probably think there's this idealistic person that goes out and they really want to change things and they get involved in politics. Well,
Right.
it's not going to take long before they realize that they've got to either ride a real hard line on something or they've got to be flexible. Now, riding a hard line on something, everybody's got to get behind that if you're going to make it work. Or you can be all soft and mushy, and you can make people believe that you're going to do a lot of things that you're not going to do. And at that point, to get the votes, to get in there to get elected, you've lost your spine. You know,
So
and you're going to say...
essentially what you're saying is that every single person at the top is corrupt.
They become...
I don't know if they... they get corrupted.
They get corrupted because they have to play the game.
You can't get a seat at the table unless you are beholden to special interests, unless you can fund your own stuff, like a Trump or whatever, or a what was his name, Ross Perot, and those the few and the far between who can finance their own stuff can speak their mind. But for the rest of them, they have to be beholden to the organizations and so forth that will contribute to it. That means you don't get anybody who isn't willing to compromise their own personal principles at the table to begin with. And so the system itself is designed to produce something that cannot, by virtue of its very definition and behavioral profile, operate in the interest of the public good because they're beholden to the private.
Right. I understand all that, but are you then saying that it's designed that way on purpose?
Yes.
Really?
I
think you want to get people in your...
I think it just happens.
I think it just happens too.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I think that once you get in there, they're gonna get their dirt on you. And when I mean they, I mean the corporations that really run the show. They're gonna get whatever blackmail material they need off of you, and you're gonna bend and you're gonna break under that pressure. You're gonna do what they want you to do. So at some point, you get put in a corporation's pocket. And it's just going to happen.
I just think that this is really kind of simplistic nonsense, to be honest.
Well, I mean, you're
really,
entitled to think that.
I just think it's this. Essentially, it's people who don't want to accept how complicated the world has actually become.
Let's simplify it.
Simple solutions because they're not actually doing the work inside the system itself.
Let me simplify it with you, then. Okay, this is just as basic as you can get. Do I have any rights that are superior to yours?
No.
No, because we're equal. We have the same rights, and they're inherent. They're not given to us. They can't be taken away. It's just part of being a human. All right. Therefore, I can't tell you what to do. Even if I get a group of friends together and we come and talk to you, it doesn't matter how many of us have opinions.
That's not true. That's not. Let's say we're living in a very small caveman society, Okay. We're back, 20,000, 30,000 years ago. We're living in a very small caveman society.
Right.
Now, everybody has the same right. There is no actual leader.
Right.
But let's say you kill somebody.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Everybody in that society has a right to tell you what to do at that point. You have forfeited your rights with your action by imposing it upon somebody else, by imposing your action upon the agreed moral standings of that society.
You're saying if
everybody
I
at that point has a right to quote unquote arrest you and deal with you as that society sees fit.
Mm-hmm. They have a right to try.
That's the way all societies work.
Okay,
you may
so
not
you're
agree with their reasoning.
No, I think that you're right, and if you want to talk about uncivilized societies that are thuggish like that, yeah, where there are
you killed somebody, I wouldn't call them a thuggish.
Well, how do you know it wasn't in self-defense? You never specified.
No, I'm positing that it's not in self-defense. If he was the one in egregious transgression, then you would be in the right. But I'm supposing that you are the one who kills him because you wanted something.
So that's mob rule. That's
right.
Right.
I was going to say that. So you're majority rules.
But that's a democracy. I believe in a representational democracy. That's what I said. In fact, the founding fathers believed that pure democracy was mob rule. That's why we have a representational democracy.
Okay, but see, under the republic, we have secured liberties that the democracy can't touch. That you can't be voted on. It doesn't. They're untouchable. They're certain and unalienable.
Right, but that same system also gave the government the right to put limits on certain things and to impose laws to enforce them and to impose penalties.
The limits cannot
transgress those laws.
They can't. The limits cannot come in conflict with the protected rights, the ones that are enumerated in the Bill of Rights, because that would be called infringement, and those rights shall not be infringed.
No, you're wrong, because the Supreme Court has actually ruled on this many times, and there are limits imposed on certain rights. You cannot, for example, you cannot threaten death to somebody. That is against the law. You have free speech, but you're not allowed to say to somebody, "I'm going to kill you." That's against the law, and that is constitutionally against the law, because the same system that created those rights created the justices in which, they have ruling on these matters.
Let me ask you something.
All right, let me ask you. Wait. Let me ask you something, Nathaniel. What if there's a ruling that comes out tomorrow, law? Okay, 90% of your money is going to be taxes going to the government.
Well, you'd have to give me a justification for that sort of.
No. Let's just say that you voted.
It now, right?
No, because the reason I'm arguing this is because I believe in it's not flawless, but I believe in a better system through the rule of law. And the rule of law uses certain standards which are built up over time via different rulings that create the society in which we live and give reasoned, arguments for such rulings. So for you to say that, suddenly there's a law that comes out that taxes, 90% of your earnings, which, by the way, has happened in different countries, not in the United States, but it happened in a few other places. I would ask you upon what basis? Because under the Constitution and the body of law that we have today, such a ruling is not really possible. It's kind of like saying, well, imagine suddenly, gravity ceases to exist. Yeah, it's possible, but it's not exactly realistic. I'm sorry. So for you to argue that on the basis of law, which is what I'm arguing for, you would have to provide some sort of standard upon which this argument would be based, and I refuse to sort of accept.
In your mind, what is a reasonable tax?
Well, it depends on what.
No, I mean, what would you reasonably be willing to? How much of your money would you be willing to reasonably give up to support a military, to support the courts, your roads,
No, I think that the
your
taxes
health
in America
and
are actually very small compared to the rest of the world. So I think that taxing a bit more, especially the wealthy people, would be a good thing. That's my personal opinion, and I can vote that way if I want.
right now, I think between your income tax and then all the little taxes that people don't pay attention to, all these little fees and stuff on your electric bill, your internet bill, and everything else, and your gas when you go to your car, the registration. I mean, besides your income tax, we're probably getting taxed upward of 50 to 60%.
Yeah, so I'm playing the world's smallest violin. Try living in Europe for a while, and then come back to me. Americans don't know what high taxes are. I'm sorry, it's just a ridiculous argument coming from an American. They really don't know what high taxes are. Try living in Europe. Try living in France. Try living in the UK. Hell, try living in Israel. Tons and tons of taxes. Much more than the United States. Are these suddenly fascistic countries because they have higher tax rates and better health care and, better, social services, etc.? I don't think so. It's a different kind of social contract. I'm not necessarily saying it's the best social contract, but I'm saying that Americans really don't have any basis to complain when it comes to taxes in a Western democracy. We're the least taxed out of any Western democracy in the world. And we're bitching about it as if we are the most oppressed, subjugated people by a fascist government, which we apparently hate because we think that we the people doesn't include the government itself, doesn't make up the government.
Well, one of the biggest taxes we all just got hit with was that health insurance tax. That's huge.
Not by European standards. No, not even close. Sorry.
I don't know.
Again, why don't you guys try living abroad for a while? In a Western democracy. Doesn't have to be North Korea. Doesn't have to be, Somalia. It doesn't have to be, China. Try living in France. Try living in the UK. Then come back to me and talk to me after a year about high taxes. I don't think you will. I think you'll be like, wow, Americans pay nothing. Americans are so fucking blessed. You have no idea.
I've been saying this for so long.
Sugar. I was going to ask you. You're thinking about going to the UK and moving over there.
I'm going. I'm actually going.
Have you looked into the tax system over there?
I've been saying this for so long that as Americans, we are completely out of touch with what the rest of the world is doing, and to the point where I didn't even realize we were the 22nd country to make marriage equality. 22nd. The way our country is acting, it's as if we're reinventing the wheel. Our fundamentalists are out of control. Nobody else does religion like we do, like we invented God. I mean, everything. I mean, when they want to have the socialized medicine, when a president who I didn't vote for comes up with this idea, because in the beginning the federal, whatever the tax, Obama tax, was supposed to be very, very close to socialized medicine, but they made sure they destroyed it. Nobody's paid attention to the Constitution. Nobody cares about anything. They use freedom of speech completely wrong. They use it to tell people what they think of them and not to speak out against tyranny and the rest of that stuff and religion. We got it completely wrong. I watch foreign news. I look at the foreign culture. They're much freer than we are. We are all becoming prisoners. There's a reason that people are wanting to be sovereign and all that stuff. I get it. I really get it. Nothing hurts me more than to have to leave my country, but I can't keep up with this. I will pay the extra tax.
Yeah, you'll pay the tax because you're opting in for a better social contract in a sense.
Right. In the last 24 years, 55 people have been killed by the UK Police Department. In 24 years. Our cops killed 55 people in the first month of January of 2015. Now, I know we love our guns and I love our Constitution, but something has gone wrong. Something has gone wrong.
I actually agree. I argued that point last night. I said that I said it was more complicated than that. That I don't think that guns are going to go away from America anytime soon, and it would take a civil war. But my point was, I am actually very anti-gun, and I don't support people typically owning guns. But in America, I sort of have to make exceptions because of the reality of the situation there is just out of control.
Well, see, and I'm sure I'll get called a hypocrite for it, but you know, I know certain gun owners are real responsible, and I would hate to see those people get their rights taken away, but there are people out there that, I mean, we have got to set up something, some kind of fail-safe. I mean,
yeah, I had this argument last night, though. I mean, it was a lengthy, detailed one, so I don't want to go into it again. But my point is, however, you're going to the UK, which I didn't know, by the way. Congratulations. I grew up there for 4 years when I was a child, and you're essentially going to be paying more taxes, a lot more taxes, but you're getting a lot of stuff in return, which you don't get in the United States. In fact, you pay a hell of a lot more taxes in America, in the UK than in America, and Americans really bitch about high taxes, but again, they don't know what high taxes really are. They just don't.
I mean, when you talk about even just the petrol, the gas, and everything, and you know what, I didn't realize that I thought this way. I mean, I never thought I would think about leaving my country, and just even talking about it in front of, you know, my fellow countrymen, just, it hurts me. It hurts me to criticize my country. You know, my grandparents all came here for that better life. I mean, they really believed in it, and nobody in my family's ever taken a dime from this country.
Yeah, I've never taken welfare or anything like that in America.
Well, I mean, I took disability when I had babies, or you know, something like
that.
Yeah,
no, I understand, but I never was disabled. I was unemployed, but I never took unemployment. So.
And, you know,
I've taken my share.
If somebody needs it, let me finish before you go off, okay? Yeah. If somebody needs it, I'm all for having it. You know, I'm not.
No, I agree.
My ex-husband worked.
Who's gonna go off?
Well,
right. No, I agree with you. I would say that it actually should be higher than what it is. I just personally never did.
It's multi-generational. Anybody's, you know, doing. My ex-husband and I worked with a man who was 4th generation welfare. Nobody in his family had worked for 4 generations. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, that is unacceptable.
You know, and he was a great guy. He took such great pride in the fact that he was the first one working.
But I would say that that's really the exception rather than the rule.
Sure, absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
And I think really the fact is that welfare really ought to be increased in America, not decreased.
And there's another reason. Look at the way they treat mothers over there. They give them 6 months off to nurse their babies.
Or more, actually.
Yeah, exactly, or more. They give them that gap in, or they fill in the income when there's I mean, that's family.
Where's this, in the UK?
Yeah.
Yeah, in France you get, I believe you get almost a year off.
Same in Germany.
Now let me ask you about this though, about in their healthcare system. Is there drug companies? Is it privatized?
No, it's the exact opposite. No, it's the exact opposite. I know what you're going to ask. Here's the thing. Ours are.
What I'm trying to ask is.
I know what you're going to ask.
Hold on. Okay.
I know exactly what you're going to ask.
I didn't know you could read minds.
Okay, I'll tell you why. Because in the UK, the British government, they have to pay for everything. So they go to the pharmaceutical companies and they say, "This is what we'll pay. This is it. This is our budget." But in the United States, if it costs 75 cents to make, they can charge $75 over the top of it. They can't advertise on TV like we do. They can't do any of that stuff. Was that what you wanted to know?
So there are caps on not only on the drugs, caps on the prices. How about also the salaries of the doctors?
Their doctors their doctors don't make what our doctors make.
But they don't have the debt either that our doctors do. I just feel like we're subsidizing the world when it comes to medicine. We can charge whatever here because of the, R&D, and I understand that these drugs may take $1 billion to develop. I get that. But the fact that they can then charge whatever it is for those drugs here, and then other countries can say, well, this is how much we're going to pay. We're subsidizing that for other countries.
Well,
I feel
See,
like.
because that's what's going to happen over here in the next year or two with the help, because a lot of the companies here are already saying that the money, is not going to be enough. They're looking for an increase. So this
Right.
quote-unquote affordable health care is supposedly going up due to the fact that, yeah, they can charge whatever they want. It seems that whenever the government starts guaranteeing loans and money to
Yep.
private companies,
Yep.
it always goes up, and there's no
need single
cap, and that's
payer.
why this is why the system, the same system there is not going to work here.
Well, I would disagree. I mean, you just do what they do.
Yeah, but then
Well, I'm
we'd
saying,
have
yeah, but I
single
mean, the
payer.
current is the way it is now. It's not going to work.
Oh,
We're
no,
hoping
you're
it's
right.
going to work like that, but unless you put a cap on the on what could be paid out to the companies, it's not going to work. And who are the very people who are lobbying and contributing so much to campaigns are a lot of the big pharmaceuticals.
Right. I remember coming up in the medical field, watching these pharmaceutical reps come in their black Gucci suits and just all decked out. They always had everything for the doctors. And they've had to change a lot of those rules because they were basically buying these doctors. I mean, outright buying them. It's wrong. The pharmaceutical, I have always referred to them as the devil, which is funny from an atheist, but they're the devil. They've ruined all kinds of things.
But that kind of corruption goes on in other countries as well, including countries that have healthcare systems in place that the pharmaceutical companies deal directly with many of these doctors, and they get their own little form of payola for prescribing their drugs and so on. So it's not really as simple as saying that this system is corrupt and that somehow this other system is better even though it costs more. The real problem is, in my mind, is just the corruption period. It doesn't matter whether it's in the US, UK, or Canada. These systems are corrupt because there are people involved. And people that get involved in business tend to be motivated by money. And it doesn't matter whether it's the UK, Canada, or the US. They're looking. It's self-interest, and
well, I wouldn't say that's necessarily a bad thing.
Well, I'm just but I'm just saying that what we're really discussing. We're talking about these different systems as though one system is preferable to the other. I would say that in terms of the development of the American economy over the last few hundred years, or even since its inception, had a lot of different factors that resulted in what we now currently have that Europe did not have, and if it did have, I suspect it probably would have developed along the same lines. But
no, the difference really is a mindset in the public. The reason why you have, I'm not saying there's no corruption in Europe. There's plenty of corruption just like in the United States, but it's of a different caliber. The reason why you have these different laws in Europe is because the people see the government in a completely different way. Okay, the whole discussion that we started with about not paying taxes or not being subject to the rule of law by the government is really it's a completely American point of view. If you go to Europe and say that, they'll look at you like you're completely fucking crazy. I know because I've had these discussions with people in the office in France and other places, and they don't understand how Americans see the government as the enemy. This in Europe is a completely bizarre sort of view. In Europe, essentially in places like France and England, the people are the government. That's how they see it. The government isn't the enemy, it's you. You are owed these things because you are part of the government. Okay? In America, anybody who's talking about civil rights is going to be railing against the government. In Europe, they're going to be asking the government for more. It's a completely different mindset. They truly do not understand the American mindset when it comes to this. It's unfathomable for them.
Every time I say this,
the Europeans what they think.
every time I say this, I get told that, you know, I am completely wrong. That's not how it is, and they don't even think of our president the way we think. They have more respect for our president than we do, but apparently we know the truth. No, the amount of conspiracy theory is not like that in the rest of the world. I mean, how is it that I know that I'm the least educated of everybody here?
Because education is oftentimes just a misnomer. It should be called intellectual constipation. We get lost in our little words.
You know what? Well, yeah, and you know when I mean, like I said, I see why William has the opinion that he does, and I can't blame him one bit. You know, the way things go, it's really
I would say that one of the reasons why. By the way, I'm not 100% in favor of a European system exactly the way you have it in France or you know, Belgium or whatever. I'm just saying that we should. I'm open to taking certain elements and instituting them in the United States. I think that really we need a better social contract in the United States. The problem is, what I'm saying is there is an inherent problem in the United States. Okay, and that is the view of the people, and it's a bizarre view when you think about the history of the United States and the Constitution itself and the Founding Fathers, who essentially, that philosophy, in a sense, is far more respected in Europe today than it is in the United States, because to the Founding Fathers, that was the impression that we were supposed to have. That we the people, okay, that's the government. That's who makes the laws. That was the ideal. We have essentially, the public trust has been betrayed by the public itself and the politicians and fine, the legal system, etc. But it's a corruption inside the philosophy in general held by Americans, as I see it. And I think that really has to change before we can get some changes in America at a foundational level between the government and the way that society is operating.
And that's why I came to Google, because I was looking down that activist road and I thought, how do I get, what does it take to get a country that is so divided and all the racism and ugliness? How do you get all of these people on the same page, moving in the same direction, while still maintaining their own beliefs? How do you do that? And so I came up with the silly, all life is sacred. I figure if you focus on just life itself and how wonderful life is and how we all should want to preserve it, but even that, nobody cares about.
Well, I would disagree that life is sacred.
Well,
again, I think that's a very Western sort of human construct.
And that works for me, because that's the only way I know how to think.
To me, life is sacred, but in terms of reality, it never has been. It's not a real thing. It's an aspiration, but that's it. You know?
Yeah, you're called an idealistic zealot, looking for utopia.
No, because I agree with you. I mean, I think it should be, and I'd like to strive for that. But I'm saying in terms of everyday reality, it just isn't.
Oh, of course. Well, if it was a reality, I wouldn't have thought that it,
Yeah.
What can we do? Obviously, it's not. Texas can, make sure that you don't have an abortion, but if you go sideways at any time in the society, they will kill you, because they've killed 524 people, since 1982. Not that I'm saying one is better than the other, if either, because everybody has a right to their own opinion.
I've heard that statistic bandied about, and I think that's a fair point in making, but again, this was one of the things I argued last night. You cannot compare American police violence to other police violence in the rest of Western Europe, because the situations are so different, so completely different. We have...
You mean they have criminals here? It's not just cops going around killing people for no reason?
Yeah, we have a huge amount of criminals that are exceedingly violent in ways that you just don't see in Europe. You
And
don't
I'm not
see
saying that there aren't bad
massacres.
cops, right? I know, and I'm not saying that
No,
there
I'm
aren't bad
not.
cops.
I'm not excusing the cops. Those cops who have murdered people, they go to jail. If they want to execute them, fine with me.
Yeah.
I am not arguing against that.
I agree.
What I'm saying though is it's not fair, in my view, to compare our violent, our police violence rates to countries in Western Europe, because the cops there simply don't deal. It's unfathomable to most Europeans what we deal with as citizens and as police on a daily basis in America. It just doesn't happen in Europe.
I never want to excuse them, but I did try and make the point that the extreme stress that I don't think anybody ever expected police officers to go through this, because it's like military. I mean, some of the areas that I worked in when I was a medic, with all those cops, there were some dirty cops, and they put up with 8-10 shootings a day, and their people got killed. It's just, who is supposed to deal with that day in and day out? And you know what the suggestions I heard? They need to change procedure. They need to not use so much force. This was the suggestion. I'm like, oh, hey. Well, if you think you can talk down the gang member, go right ahead.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. Again, I am not excusing their behavior in any way, but I think it's okay. If people want to excuse, all right, or let's say people want to find root causes for things when it comes to criminals. People do it all the time. They were poor, they were hungry, etc. Fine. That's looking for a root cause. So if I'm going to apply that to a criminal, I'm going to apply it to the police as well.
Sure.
It doesn't excuse or justify the criminal's actions, and it doesn't excuse or justify the police's actions. All I'm doing is saying that if you're going to say that there are extenuating circumstances for one group of people on one side, you have to look and see if there are extenuating circumstances for the other side. You may not find any, but I think it's fairly clear that there are. Okay, anybody who's honest about it, anybody who's honest about the crime rate in America will realize, will understand quite quickly that the cops are dealing with military type of situations. I'm not excusing them, just as I'm not excusing the rapist who goes out and rapes somebody or murders somebody because they were poor or underprivileged or whatever. I'm not excusing that. They should still suffer the consequences, just as police should suffer the consequences when they break the law, because it's breaking the law. That's what it is. Okay. You could put any label you want on it. That doesn't matter to me. It's breaking the law. They should suffer the consequences. End of story. If you want to say it's a hate crime, whatever, this is, niggling stuff in a sense to me. That doesn't matter. We're talking about breaking the law. So if you're going to find extenuating circumstances for that, you really should look to see if they exist on the other side as well. And I think we all agree, or we should all agree, that these things do exist. Now, am I saying that the end result should be that essentially we should just excuse cops or excuse criminals because of these extenuating? No. I'm just saying that we should take into account the fact that the police are not dealing with the same kind of situation as you are dealing with in, the rest of Western Europe. So it's not a fair assessment to talk about, execution rates and police brutality, etc., in the same vein as you do in Western Europe, because I don't think that they're comparable.
Okay. I've shown you the answer. I was challenged quite heavily on this issue. So,
well, I'm not challenging you.
No, not you. No, I
Okay.
I was challenged on this in another hang-up because I.
All right. I just want to make sure.
No, you are right on. You're right on track, and I appreciate you really being so eloquent. And
well, I try. One does one's best.
You are terrific. You know it.
Thanks.
A big fan of yours, always have been.
I didn't know I had any.
Fair. Because you're always fair, and I know that while you take some positions that I know you're fair now, so you see it from a lot of different angles.
Would you like an autographed picture from Nathaniel?
Yeah, I can send you one.
I actually took one. I actually took one
No,
the last time I was
all
talking
I
to you.
require is that you waive the 1-900 charges when I call you. That's all. That's all I demand.
Well, the last time I was stalking you, I got one as you were coming out of the shower, so I'm good.
All right.
Mhm.
So anyway, sorry, Brother John. I went off a little bit there. I'll let you.
It's all right, you know.
All right.
It was okay.
Brother John.
But I'm coming up to a 2-hour mark here. Gonna wind it down. Good. An article I wanted to bring up. Let me just screen share.
I'm actually sitting fairly far from the computer, so you'll have to tell me what it's about.
Okay. We all know that ants, right, lift up many times their own weight. But there's further research saying that that ants have the ability to switch between individual and collective action. And this kind of reminds me, and you know, I'm not a Christian, I'm not, you know, but I believe there is some wisdom in the Bible, and there is a part in the Bible where I think it was Solomon, it was attested to Solomon to say, observe the ant, right? Look at the ant. He's not a sluggard. And so this article goes on to say how that ants have the unique ability to switch between individual and collective action. According to this new research, which uncovers the mystery behind their impressive teamwork.
Yes, I read about
are able to transport. Okay, yeah. So it seems that the let me just scroll down here a second.
Yeah, it's actually new data from what I read. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so let me just read this a little. The insects are able to transport objects such as food that are much larger than themselves, but intuitively understanding when to be part of the collective muscle and when to play an individual quote-unquote scouting role for the group. Experiments using the Cheerios breakfast cereal showed how groups of a dozen more ants working in unison could haul much bigger items by pushing in the same direction. But crucially, when the group moves off course or trouble looms, the ant who first realizes the problem transforms into a highly individualistic leader. This ant signals the need for a direct change by tugging at a different angle, and her colleagues instantly accept the decision and follow suit. So yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting. I find that also you see that behavior in birds as well. If they're like say all together in a field, and there's an interruption, they all flying in the same direction instantaneously. It just seems. So I find that it was an interesting article, and perhaps something maybe us humans in dealing with all life's problems.
Yeah, it's a new article, isn't it? I think I saw it like last night or the night. I can't remember, something like that. It was on my stream, on my news stream, and I saw that. I think it's pretty interesting, actually. I mean, the collective power of ants is well known by now to be really something, you know, quite admirable, and it can teach us a lot about actually a hive mind mentality, and in fact, it's led to some interesting thoughts about the way computers should work, etc. So. Yeah, no, I thought it was fascinating, actually.
Yeah, that the article came out of the was it Independent? The Independent here out of UK.
Yeah, it could be. I don't remember where it was from, but I did see it. I did see it was brand new data, etc.
So before we go off ahead, does anybody have any final comments about anything we discussed, or before we close up? Last words.
I have to be honest with myself, with my own thoughts on this. Anytime that I see things like the ants, and I see them using specific words to describe behavior, that it's almost like you could predict which papers or who's going to carry those articles based on their politics. because it's not even like it's because you can actually interpret the data of a lot of this stuff in a number of different ways, and somehow the stuff that gets reported seems to often carry an almost political connotation to it that I just find unsettling.
Well, I think it's only
you know, in the
natural.
back of my mind, yeah, I was kind of thinking that too. Like there's like a little agenda going on.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where that's coming from.
Yeah.
People like to use as an analogy for our own collective society, etc. But we're not ants, you know.
And do we really want the kind of lives that ants live and must live in order to maintain that kind of collective identity?
I would say that if you're using that word lives, I think you have to define it differently with an ant. I don't see ants having lives in the same way that we do. I'm not saying they're not precious. I'm not saying they're not sacred. I'm just saying that I don't think that, you know, their life comprises anything like what we think of it.
It's like they're
Talking about my ants.
when he's young.
All ant life is sacred.
Yeah.
I want to live.
All ant life is sacred.
I want to live in the hill. Well, I want to live in the jam jar. I want to live up in the like it's just they don't choose that.
No, they don't have thoughts. I think really, it's all instinctive. I mean, there's no thought process in the way that we think of going on in the brain of an ant. You know.
Okay, with that, I'm going to close the broadcast and say this: we are Borg. You must be simulated.
Yeah,
Resistance is futile.
Futile.
Simulated.
Come with us. Come with us.
Resistance is futile.
Assimilated.
Thanks for hanging out with me here. Assimilated. Sorry, simulated. I know. Assimilated. Thanks for hanging out. We're going to go off-air discussion wherever it goes. Link is in the event page if any of our viewers care to join us off-air. Thanks for joining this edition of the Morning Crow.
Go, go, go.